Hi people, it's me Anja, my pronouns all she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new recent reads video. If I'm being completely honest with you, I've spent the last few weeks of January filming videos and TikToks and everything that I haven't set aside time to read. So I've actually only read 6 books this month so far, and today's the 15th. So typically, historically, in previous months, I would have read more books by now, but I'm feeling really excited lately about my booktube channel, so I just wanted to prioritize that for the time being, especially since I felt behind with that. But now that I've caught up with myself, I've decided to lately spend more time reading. So anyway, this is a slew of 4 out of 5 star books that I've read lately. So with that said, the first book on this list is called Casander, Darkbloom, and the Threads of Power. This story is a middle-grade fantasy following a young main character with amnesia at the moment, and he discovers that he's a prophesized hero to a magical world, and once he starts attending this magical school, his memory starts to come back. And I think this book is so good and it's so fantastic. I don't know if there are sequels to this book. I'm assuming so, considering how this book ends. And I'm really hoping that there are more books because I loved this book so much. I really appreciated the unique world building and the setting and the plot and the characters and the friendships and the magic. I think this book is so good and it's so fantastic. It's been a long time since I've read a middle-grade fantasy that truly felt unique. I know I just said that about Impossible Creatures, but anyway, this book is so good and it's so underrated. So with that said, I rated it 4 out of 5 stars and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called An Ocean Apart. This story is a YA science fiction dystopian that follows a young main character who's planning on infiltrating a dating competition in order to steal the prize money and donate it to her struggling community. Does that make sense? I thought this book was so good and so fantastic. Science fiction is not a genre that I really gravitate towards often because historically, the world building is so confusing. And if I don't understand what's going on, then I'm not going to really enjoy the plot. And this book was so good. I loved how the author really touched on climate change and class differences and everything. The ways in which she really depicted the wealthy versus the poor really reminded me of the Hunger Games. And I know that that's a high compliment. And I love the Hunger Games, which is how I know that that's a high compliment. This book was so good. I loved the characters and the romance and the plot and the world building and the setting and the family dynamics and even the love triangle. This book is so fantastic and it's so underrated and it's so relevant and it's so important. One of my favorite elements of science fiction or dystopian or fantasy or even historical fiction is how it still parallels to modern day, and that is a true mark of a really good book. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Dividing Sky. This book is written by the same author as the last one. This book is another YA dystopia romance science fiction that follows a young main character who's a memory merchant, which means that she sells memories to the wealthy. And basically the other main character is a rookie officer who is tasked with hunting her down, except once he meets up with her, she doesn't remember what she's doing at all. So that's fun. I think this book is so good and it's so fantastic. I really appreciated the layers of the world, of the jobs, of everything. Their characters individually made so much sense, and their motivations and emotions and everything made so much sense, as well as their chemistry. I think this book is so fantastic and it's so good. I need Jill to start writing more YA science fiction books immediately, and I'm aware that I'm late to the party, but I'm here and I'm not leaving. I'm seated because her books are so fantastic and they're so underrated and they're so rich and stunning and everything. Like, I love the plot and the pacing and the characters and the writing and everything. I rated this book 4 stars because I really, really enjoyed it. So with that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Hello Sunshine. This story is a YA queer horror graphic novel that follows 4 friends who are all looking for their missing best friend. Does that make any sense? So basically, the 4 main characters are the secret boyfriend of the missing guy, the missing guy's twin brother, the childhood best friend of the missing guy, and then the girlfriend of the brother. I think this book was so good and so well done. First of all, the illustrations are so pretty, and the depiction of mental illness paired with his hallucinations was so good. I loved all of the platonic dynamics between all of them, as well as the gay romance, and all of the different character perspectives were done so well because each of the characters felt well developed individually as well as together. I loved the plot and the pacing and the writing and everything. Like, this book is so good and it's so fantastic. It's definitely one of my favorite graphic novels that I've read this year. Now, I've only read 6 books this year, so that doesn't say much. But with that said, this book is definitely one of my favorite horror queer books, and I would definitely recommend it for fans of A Feast for the Eyes, which I read in October, I think, and it was so good. But anyway, this book is fantastic. I rated it 4 stars, and I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. And then lastly, I read Meticulous Jones and the Shadow Compass, which is a middle-grade fantasy sequel to Meticulous Jones and the Skull Tattoo, which I read at the beginning of last year. And if you didn't know, this series is a middle-grade fantasy series set in a world where at the age of 10, you receive a magical tattoo that determines your fate, which I think is so fascinating. I've always loved the idea of, like, fate versus destiny, or are those the same thing? Anyway, I've always loved the idea of, like, the expectations given to you versus what you actually end up doing, because, like, who decides who you end up to be? Like, you know what I mean? Anyway, this book was so good and it's so fantastic. And I loved the world building and the setting and the characters and her family dynamics, especially her relationship with Sundar. Is that how you pronounce his name? I'm assuming. But anyway, I thought this book was so good and it was so fantastic. I also loved her friendship with Faith. I think that this book needed more of Faith. I'm hoping to see more of Faith and her family in the sequels. I thought this book was so good and so awesome. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 to 5 stars. I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. So in conclusion, I haven't filmed a recent reads video in what feels like a month, and I don't know how accurate that actually is. I've just been filming all of my 2025 reading wrap-up stats videos instead of actually reading. So anyway, with that said, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I love filming recent reads videos. I love making booktube videos in general. It's just really disheartening sometimes when people don't engage with my content as much as I think that they should, because I'm constantly promoting my YouTube channel all the time on every platform that I have, yet people don't reciprocate any of that love. So anyway, not that all of my hard work is for nothing necessarily, but I don't know. Anyway, in conclusion, if you like this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the bat emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.